Hi, everyone, and welcome to the season 40 edition of the Soul Survivor podcast. Last season, me and Jordan started up this podcast because we're obviously huge fans of the show, and we're back this season with a lot more because it is a huge season with all winners. We've added our third host, who is on his first podcast with us right now, Ryan Winthrop. He may even be a bigger Survivor fan than me and Jordan is, and he remembers every single vote of every season ever. So
I don't know I'm a bigger fan, but I will say that he is better with his recall than I am.
Yeah,
sure.
Great memory.
Thanks, guys.
And I think that in order to transition from season 39 to 40, it's perfect that we have on our first ever guest of the podcast, Aaron Meredith from season 39. How are you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing great, fellas. Excited to be here with you guys, and feel honored to be your first participant in this podcast. So yeah, I'm excited, man.
No better person to start it off, trust me.
Yeah, first guest ever. It's exciting.
That's right.
Ryan, you want to kick it off here?
Yeah, sure. So Aaron, I really love how you came into the game really playing hard, playing fast. Have you always been a big fan of the show? Like, how did you get into Survivor in the first place?
Yeah, I've been a fan of the show for a long time. So season 1 came out in 2000, and I was a senior in high school. And at the time, 21 was the age that you had to be to play Survivor. So I knew that if I wanted to play the game, I had to wait, a few years. And I went to college, so I ended up going to the Coast Guard Academy. So I didn't have an opportunity to do anything there while I was in the military. But right when I got out of the military in 2004 was the first time I applied. So I applied way back in 2004. Submitted a tape, didn't hear anything back, and I've been applying sporadically from 2004 up through 2018 when I eventually got cast. So it has been a very long time coming. So yeah, I've watched every season. I can't recall every situation and every scenario like some super fans out there. They'll tell you, hey, I remember this blindside, or remember when this person used this idol. I can't remember all those things, but I do, recall the winners. I've got favorite seasons, but yeah, I would consider myself a fan, not a super fan to that extent.
Right, got it.
So in terms of like the casting, did you ever get like far in the casting and then get rejected before eventually getting on, or was this season like the first time you really got far into that process and then eventually got on?
Yeah, no. So go back to 2011, I believe. That's when they did a CBS Sears casting call type of deal. I don't know if you guys remember 2011. What happened is they submitted a 1-minute video, and it was voted on by fans for the people who they thought would make good TV on Survivor.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I had submitted a tape then. I got some votes, but it never panned out. But I actually got my first callback from that audition tape. And then it kind of snowballed. So one thing led to another. I got my callback. I got several callbacks. At that point in time, they weren't doing semifinal interviews anymore. So you're going straight to finals. So I had done a series of callbacks, a couple different people, and was told, like, hey, look, like, they love you. We're going to invite you out to finals, and just be ready to go. You're going to get your plane ticket in the mail, and you're going to be at finals. Like let's go, let's get focused. So I'm fired up, like cloud 9 right now, through the roof. In my head, I'm thinking I'm going to make it on the season. There's no way that if I go out to finals in LA that they're not going to cast me. And it was about 4 days before I was supposed to leave for finals that I got a phone call and was like, sorry, man. Like, casting director was going to go in a different direction, and it's not going to work out this year. Like, literally, like the worst case of blue balls that you could possibly have comes to Survivor. It was awful. Like, it was awful.
Did you at least get to go out to LA with the plane ticket?
No, I did not. No, I mean, yeah,
Wow.
They did you dirty.
It's no good at that point in time. So yeah, it sucked. It sucked. So I made it very close, and I knew that I had something. So I knew that, all right, these guys are interested in me. It just didn't work for this particular season, but it doesn't mean it's not going to work down the road. And after that, I got several calls. Hey, look, we're still thinking about you. You're in the mix. We're still thinking about you. You're in the mix. And then last year, it was, hey, we're thinking about you. You're in the mix. And the mix turned into a Skype with Jeff, a Skype with Matt, invitation to the finals, and yeah, ended up on the show.
Wow.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah, man.
I'm a student of the game. I actually just started watching the show in June, and I've been binging it like crazy since. So this past season was actually the first one I ever watched live. Audition tape question for you. Any particular advice you have to get that callback?
I guess the best bit of advice that I could give would be, and a lot of people will tell you this, is to be yourself. Be an animated version of yourself, right? So
Okay.
if you're really passionate about golf, be really passionate about golf. If you are an engineer, be super passionate about engineering. Like take it over the top. And then on top of that, make sure you wrap it in a story some way in your life. Craft a story, tell the story compelling so that it has them on their edge of their seat. So when they're watching your audition tape, like, all right, yeah, this guy's good. Like he can sit in a confessional and give an awesome confessional that'll be TV worthy. So you've got to be able to tell a story. You've got to be really animated and passionate about yourself, right? Talk about yourself and just be you. Like don't try to be somebody that you're not. So don't look at like an archetype and say, oh yeah, that's me. I'm going to try to craft my audition tape around Aaron. Like you can't do that. There's one Aaron. So don't try to be somebody who you're not. Be yourself. That's the best bit of advice I could give you.
That's good.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Got it.
Cool. So we'll transition into gameplay at this point.
Yeah,
Beginning of season 39. So first vote of the season, you were not on the right end of it. How hard was it to recover from that? Especially, you were like with Ronnie and then he gets voted out and then, you go back to tribal and you're obviously very upset about that. How hard was it to recover?
I don't know that she ever really fully recovered from that. And I think it was a good thing that I got blindsided when I did get blindsided, because it made me really take a step back and appreciate everybody else that was out there, that they were playing really hard too. I went into the game with a strategy. I went into the game with a plan, and that plan went out the door day 3, gone. And now I'm on to plan B. And then that plan goes out the door, and you're on to plan C and D. The game evolves so fast and so quickly that as a fan, you can sit there and say, yeah, you should have made this decision. You should have made that decision. But there's so much going on. Like as a fan, you don't have the opportunity, or you have the opportunity to see things happen mostly real time. In this conversation going on here, that conversation going on over here. So what I took away from that first tribal council was to be more perceptive of what was going on around me. To realize, all right, those two people are talking. What are they talking about? They could be talking about the dog that died last month, or they could be talking about blindsiding me. I've got to be perceptive in that and try to figure out, okay, why are these two always walking off together? Like, is there some pattern there? So I took more of a step back and started to analyze a lot more that was going on around me, which I think helped me to get further in the game. Because honestly, I think I would have had a false sense of confidence had everybody voted the way that I thought they were voting with Vince, and Ronnie stays in the game, and then him and I think that we're the kingpins running the show, which in all actuality, I was not. Now I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. I mean, I thought I was up here, and then to get smacked down to like, dude, you're lucky you're still here right now. Like, you could have been the first boot. That was what was rushing through my mind. We got time to go from tribal council back to camp. It's a boat ride, and there's some silence, and there's some, you have an opportunity to kind of collect yourself. So I had a chance to really gather myself and say, all right, now game on. Now you're playing. Now, how do you go about handling camp, right? So you see it on TV where I'm sitting there and everybody's kind of telling me, and they're like tiptoeing around, like they're walking on eggshells. I'm like, guys, like you blindsided me, like it's fucking Survivor. Like, yeah, like I would have voted for Ronnie. I wish you guys would have told me, like, you don't trust me. So I said all the right things to everybody. I listened, right? Elaine wanted to come back and say, everybody tried talking to you, you wouldn't listen. I mean, I would have listened. Trust me, like, I don't want to be on the outside of the numbers. That first vote, would I have voted Ronnie? Probably yes. Yeah, and I told him that. I was like, dude, if they came to me and they said it's you, I would have voted you out. And no hard feelings. And he was like, I understand. You did see the scene with me pulling Missy aside is because I knew I had a relationship with Missy. I knew we had a bond together, and I could trust her, that I could vent and tell her how I really felt. So everybody else got the bullshit. They all got the, yeah, it's Survivor. It's happy-go-lucky where I'm still happy to be out here, but I was steaming, like literally fuming, which is why I pulled Missy aside and I was like, do you mind if I vent to you? She was like, yeah, of course. Like, yeah. And that's me venting. So you saw me venting. which is why people are like, why is Aaron going to go back to camp and then act like an asshole? I didn't. I went back to camp. I said what I was supposed to say to the right people. I pulled my strongest ally in the game aside, clearly, that formed a bond with Missy because we end up working the entire game together, and I vented because I needed to vent to somebody, and I trusted her. So that's what you see there.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point about it's kind of good in a way that you get blindsided at the first vote, but you survive because then you get that perception. I think players all the time that I've heard say, getting left out early led me to pick up on things more often. And I think that actually segues really good into the Chelsea vote because right when the episode starts, you're the one who says, I see Dean and Chelsea together all the time during the day. They're snuggling at night in the shelter. And you pick up on that pretty quick. And I feel like that ultimately leads to her vote out that episode. So I definitely see your point in that having that setback allows you to see things a lot more clearly moving forward.
Yeah, so if we're going to get into Chelsea, first thing I'll dispel is there was no showmance, okay? Me picking apart Chelsea and Dean, it's crazy how editing works, but that confessional didn't actually happen until after she was voted out.
Really?
Confessional of me giving my analysis of why you don't snuggle up on Survivor, just a narrative that was being spun, okay? So in the game, nobody perceived Dean and Chelsea as a showmance. We did perceive them that they were close. We did perceive like, okay, who is Dean closest with? It's probably Chelsea. Who is Chelsea closest with? It's probably Dean. But nobody was like, oh, look at those two. We got to break them up because they're a showmance. The issue, okay, if we're going to go with where like Chelsea and why Chelsea was voted out, me personally, I wanted Dean out, okay? And rightfully so. I still feel justified seeing the game that Dean played and how far he made it and where he ended up in the game. I called it right there. I was like, this dude is playing an under-radar game. Happy-go-lucky. He's going to skate by. He's going to skirt by, and he's going to find himself in the final three, and that's exactly what he did. So I caught attention to that, and I was like, look, this dude is doing nothing for me, nothing for my game. I like Dean. He's my boy. We can hang out outside the game, but in the game of Survivor, like, you're useless to me. You do me no – you're not going to help my game because you're not a shield. You're not sociably going to bring me information. I know you're not exchanging information like that with me. You're just kind of just sitting there. Like, you're providing no value to my game, which is why I go after Dean. So what you see me is trying to protect Karishma because at this point in time, Karishma, myself, and Missy are working together. And we've time and time again have told Karishma, like, we're going to save you. Your name has come up. We're going to make sure that does not happen. Your name has come up. We're going to make sure that does not happen. And time again, that's exactly what we did for her. And the people knew that, but essentially, nobody wanted to ruffle feathers. So Missy and I never wanted to vote Karishma out. So it came to that point in time where I was like, all right, swap is coming. Who do I not want to work with? I knew Elaine was loyal, so I wanted to keep her around. I knew Tom was loyal. I wanted to work with him and keep him around. Obviously, Missy and Elizabeth are mine, like my 1 and 2. Like I want to work the game with them. And then I saw Dean and Chelsea kind of on the outside. For me, I saw more value with Chelsea, and I wanted to have Chelsea with us. I felt like that was a number that I could work with, which is why I went after Dean. That got shot down. So when that gets shot down, I come back from my confessional, and everyone's like, nope, it's not Dean. We're not going to vote Dean. It's still Karishma. So I'm like, damn it. All right, it's Karishma. About 5 minutes before we leave for tribal council, Elaine comes up to me, and she's like, it's Chelsea. And in my head, I'm like, what? Why Chelsea? But I'm not going to ask a question. I had got left out on the outside of the vote for Ronnie. And the fact that Elaine is telling me, I'm like, great. Like, they're bringing me in to what's going on. I'm not going to vote wrong. So, Missy, Chelsea? Yeah, Chelsea. Elizabeth, Chelsea? Chelsea. Like, all right, I'm either being lied to right now by everybody that I thought I was playing the game with, or it's Chelsea. So that's how Chelsea went down. That's why she got voted out, was essentially that Missy felt she didn't have connection strong enough for anybody to vie for her and to keep her in the game, and she was right. Like, if somebody came up to me and was like Missy at that point in time, I would have ran to Missy like, hey, we got to do something. Your name came up. But when I heard it was Chelsea, I was like, all right, well, I don't want it to be Chelsea, but at the same time, she's not a strong number of mine. She wasn't a strong number of Elaine or Tom or Elizabeth or Missy. If she was, they would have tipped her off and given her the heads up, the same heads up that I would have given Missy or Elizabeth if I heard their name. So that's why Chelsea got voted out. That's it.
Nice.
Yeah. There was no showman.
Say you would have told Missy if people were talking about her, because I feel like if I was in the game, especially that early, I would do whatever I could just to stay afloat. I'd be willing to vote anyone out, especially one of my early alliances. were you planning on, and I know it was early, but were you planning on going final three with Missy no matter what, or were you scared of her? No.
Never. I was never
gonna
going to
say,
go final
you're
three with
too
Missy.
smart for that. Yeah.
Never going to go finals three with Missy. I perceived Missy as a bigger threat than myself, and I wanted Missy as a shield. So it transitioned from thinking I could work with Dean and Dean be my shield to realizing this dude sucks at challenges. He's not a social
He was low
threat.
key very bad in challenges.
No, he not low key. He was very bad in challenges. There's no low key about it. It's like your boy, right? You're playing pickup basketball with your boy, but he's your boy, and you know he sucks, and you're like, damn, I gotta freaking draft you, or I gotta pick you, like, because you're my boy, but you don't want to play with him. That was Dean. Like, you're my boy, man. Like, I'm gonna cover you, but only as long as it benefits me. And it got to a point where I was like, I can't cover you more. Like, you gotta go.
I was gonna say after every like episode we would talk about, because they kept saying like, yeah, Dean is a physical threat, and we would see that on TV, and we were like, what are they talking about? Like from what we're watching, there's no way that's true.
No. He realized after the first few challenges that Dean was not a threat. I was not concerned about Dean. Either he was playing a very good role, an acting role, and being terrible at challenges, or he was just terrible at challenges. He was terrible at challenges. So he was just really bad at challenges. So no, Missy to me was going to be the shield that I needed to further myself in the game. And if I align with her, hopefully she goes before I go. And that would be the tipping sign for me, is that if Missy falls, then I'm going to go right after her. So I've got to be ready to make some moves. So I had always thought of Missy as my strongest ally. She's going to get voted out before I get voted out. And eventually I'll be okay with it. But at that point in time in the game, I was not okay with it. We're at 12 days in, right? We're going to swap. So you want to swap with people who you can trust. So like, that's why I went to Elaine and Tom, and I was like, hey, guys, I want to let you know there's a 5-person alliance, or they think Dean, me, Chelsea, Elizabeth, Missy. I'm letting you guys know right now that that doesn't fly with me. I don't want to work with Chelsea and Dean. I'd rather work with you and Tom, Elaine. And they're like, really? Like, they didn't know that there was a 5-person alliance. So I blew that alliance up for my benefit to say, I'm going to solidify and build trust with Elaine and with Tom, right? Because if I can go into a swap and end up on a tribe with one of these guys, I literally just came to you and told you about an alliance that was happening behind your back that you had no idea about. You didn't know about this alliance. And I just brought that to that information to them. And I think that benefited me. Elaine might say otherwise, but honestly, at that point in time, when I told Elaine and Tom that deal, I think that solidified a little bit of trust with her and myself, because I blew that 5-person alliance up.
So you mentioned in that answer, you mentioned how, like Dean, you didn't, like, he wasn't playing an acting job, but he could have been playing an acting job. You won the first 2 immunity challenges before you got voted out. Do you wish you like took it back a notch, or did you feel like that everyone saw you as a threat anyway, so you just had to win those immunity challenges?
You got to understand, right? And when you're out there, there's so many different factors that are coming into play, and it's really easy to sit back and to say, damn, you should have lost, Aaron. Like, what are you doing? You're putting a big target on your head. Look, I had a target on my head at Ponderosa before the game started.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't care what anybody says. Like, I'm not Dean. I'm 6'2". Dean is 5'8" on a good day, right? Tommy and myself, we're gonna have the biggest target on our head, but then Tommy looks like a little puppy dog, right? So then you got me, and I'm perceptive to this. I can see and look around at the cast, and I'm like, all right, I know what they're gonna be thinking about me. Like, I can't hide behind it. I can't dumb it down. I can't play worse than what I am. Like, I gotta be me. Now, I could say I didn't necessarily have to win. I could have took it far enough, competed, and then not won. If I could have run it back, that's how I would have done it, right? I wouldn't have won either two. I wouldn't have won them. But at the time, I honestly felt like I needed to win to secure my spot in the game. And I clearly did. Like, the second that I didn't have immunity, I got voted out. So they could say, oh, no, it was Missy, it was Elizabeth. I heard 3 names. I heard Missy, Elizabeth, and Aaron. Those are the 3 names that I heard when we merged. And if my name is being talked about right now, and I know we're down in numbers because we lost a bunch of tribals before that as a tribe, then if we're going tribal lines, original Lyro, original Vokai, I'm in the bottom. I'm in trouble. So what can I do to secure my spot? Find an individual hidden immunity idol or win individual immunity. Couldn't find a hidden immunity idol, so I won individual immunity. And that bought me another 6 days in the game.
So let me ask you this. I mean, you're really the best of both worlds in a player, and like I'm serious about that. You understand the analytical mindset that you need, that pretty much every winner has, that you need to think 3 votes ahead as opposed to just trying to get to the next tribal council. And obviously, like, you were sick in challenges before the merge. You were really strong in individual immunity. So you're really the whole package that everybody fears. Is there room for anybody like you to win the game who's just a complete physical threat and at the same time you're playing a great social game? Can someone like you ever win?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to look at past winners, take a look at Jeremy Collins. I mean, there's no reason why Jeremy should have ever won. Like, if I'm playing a season with Jeremy, he's a father. He's got a family. He's super athletic. He's super social. Like, a guy like that shouldn't win the game. So if I were to model my game, I'd have to play a game like Jeremy. And Jeremy had 2 hidden immunity idols, right? He didn't win a challenge until the end. So he played that down a little bit, his physicality down a little bit. But at the end of the day, you can't hide behind the muscles. You can't hide behind being a Division I athlete. And Jeremy did a really good job navigating it. But I think he had assistance when it comes to his hidden immunity idols, the way he played them. He saved Fishback. He saved himself. So I needed to have some hardware, right? Like I needed to have a super advantage. I needed to have a vote block, a vote steal, something that I could leverage or use, and I didn't. Like, and that's not, you can't go into Survivor planning on having and finding advantages. I mean, Tommy won our season without any idols, without any advantages. Hats off to him for playing that type of game, but I don't think that I could play the type of game that Tommy played. I really don't think that I could ever play that level of game because of what I look like. Like, I think it has nothing to do with, from a social standpoint, I can be, like, oh, you find, you form bonds with people and relationships. Well, I do that too. But at the end of the day, I look the way that I look. Like, nothing I can do about that. I can't change people's perception of what I look like. So I would need hardware. That's the only way I can win the game.
I think you bring up a really good point, though. I'm sorry, Jordan. What were you saying?
You got it. I was going to ask how much you looked for idols. Like, how much does everybody look for idols?
Every day, from the swap on, every day I looked. In the beginning, you don't want to be you don't want to put a target on your back. What I did, and I'm lucky. I literally, at night, the very first night, I went and I dug around tree mail. I dug around the well like for 2 hours. The moon was so bright that you could see. So I went and I dug around tree mail and I dug around the well, and I didn't find anything. And I went back and Ronnie saw me. He was like, looked at my hands. My hands were literally covered in fucking like dirt. Like, bro, like you could have rinsed off in the ocean. So he's looking at me. I look at him, and we didn't talk about it, but that ended up playing part into Ronnie getting voted out, is because the girls saw somebody dug up around the well, and Ronnie was there, and he was like, wasn't me. I didn't dig around the well. It wasn't me. And they essentially, it was like admission by guilt. Like, dude, no, it was you. But he knew it was me, and he didn't roll on me. He could have dined me out and been like, it was Aaron. Aaron was up last night. This was day 2. Like, the fact that Ronnie didn't roll on me and dine me out there was big. Like, that could have hurt. But yeah, I looked, man. I looked a lot. I looked often. I dug. There was one scene where you saw me and Missy walking in the morning by Janet. She's like, where are you guys going? And I was like, oh, we're going for a walk. I have a shovel in my hand. Got to the point where I was like, I don't care. I got a shovel. You know exactly what I'm doing with this shovel. I'm going to look for an idol. You guys can come. You cannot come. But I'm not going to let you know if I find it. But yeah, so every day. But it got to the point where everybody was looking.
It's awesome. Yeah. I think you did bring up a really good point, though, back to your physicality. Like you said, like you can't hide from that. And I think it does you no favors to try to like throw challenges, because people will know you're throwing because you're obviously such a big physical threat. And I do think that you were dealt an unfortunate hand, because with the twist of the split tribal, where you split into 2 different mini tribes, not only did you not have any hardware, like you said, you also didn't have any of your 3 allies, Missy, Elaine, or Elizabeth. They were all in the other tribe. So I feel like you were dealt a really bad hand with not having your allies and having a split vote where you lost a challenge. When you lose a challenge there, do you know that you're gone, or do you have any tricks up your sleeves to try to save yourself in that really tough situation?
So this is kind of where, again, you can kind of kick yourself. I should have saw the writing on the wall. I should have realized, look, your strongest allies are on the other side. You've got Elizabeth and Missy that are my strongest, and I voted with Elaine every single time. Like, I never voted against her. I never voted, everywhere she voted outside of Ronnie, I voted with Elaine the entire game. So you could say that the 3 strongest allies I had were on the other side, plus Tommy. Like Tommy and I had formed a bond where it was like, yo, we're the two biggest dudes out here. We got to have each other's back. So it was kind of that spoken understanding that if his name comes up, I'm going to let him know. If my name comes up, he's going to let me know. And that was true. Like I would have told Tommy right away and be like, yo, look, I want you in the game. I want to sit next to you at the end. Like you need to stay. Like I can always paint you as a bigger target than me from a physical standpoint, from a social standpoint. You're great. You're a great shield to have. Like Tommy was a phenomenal shield. So I'm looking over there outside of charisma. Every person that I could have worked with was over there. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I also had an alliance with Lauren because she was with the Tommy and Dan. And Dean, I should have known. I mean, that dude he'll go wherever the numbers are. But at least Dan and Lauren, I thought that they would have my back. Like they would give me a heads up. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to go and stir up drama if you were actually safe. Like, so say theoretically I'm safe in that situation. And then I try to stir up drama and then take the vote from Janet to Dan or do something drastic, right? You don't want to do that because if I'm safe and then all of a sudden I'm trying to stir shit up, people are like, Aaron, what are you doing? Like the plan was to go for Janet. Why are you trying to switch to Dan? And then, or try to like play a fake idol or something like that. Like you don't want to do something that's going to draw attention to you if you're actually going to be safe. So there's that, am I good? Am I not good? I should have saw the writing on the wall. I didn't. And I kick myself over that. Some nights I go to sleep and I'm thinking about it like, damn, dude, how did you not see that? But again, that's just part of me feeling safe. And that's that false sense of confidence. Like you got an alliance of 8. You're going to vote strong. You know where they're going. It's Janet, Karishma. It's easy peasy. There's that false sense of confidence. And I stopped playing the game for that split second. And that's why I got voted out. I could have done something. I could have tried something. I could have done it, thrown a Hail Mary out. I didn't. Because I wasn't 100% confident I needed to. I wish I did, but that's the game.
Got it. That's fair. Yeah.
So I have one question. Just all this talk of idols. So what we haven't brought up yet is Island of the Idols. You obviously didn't go, but at what point did you know what was over there? And at what point did you want to go there, I should say?
Let's see. I would have not been mad if I went over there early because in my mind, Tribe's going to keep me around for strength, okay? Why vote me out at that point early in the game? Why? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm going to help you win challenges. So in my head, I'm thinking, all right, if I'm going to go to the Island of the Idols, I need to go now. So I would have been okay going early. Fuck it. I would have been okay going at any point in time because once I get to the merge, I'm still going to need some protection anyways. So yeah, I would have went any day. Like I would have volunteered. Like I would have volunteered if it was like, hey, who wants to go? I'd be like, me. I want to go. Like, give me an idol. Give me an advantage. Give me something. I need it. I need some type of extra power here. I didn't find out what was going on in the Island of the Idols until I got out of the game. So when I got at Ponderosa, who told me? Kelly. I think Kelly was like, Rob and Sandra at the island. Like, what? What do you mean Rob and Sandra at the island? Like, Rob and Sandra are there. So I didn't find out about what was going on out there until I was actually out of the game.
Oh.
And then we didn't know that they were at Tribal Council until the first episode.
Wow,
That's crazy.
And
That's
we
crazy.
saw the confessional shack. So we had no clue. None of us had any idea that they were at Tribal Council.
Yeah, so like in terms of just like was anybody who hadn't been there nobody who hadn't been there had any idea of it, or were there people who still hadn't gone that knew but like it was just kept from you?
I think later on in the game, I know Elaine, I think Lauren might have told like Tommy and that alliance. But again, I wasn't with those guys. Like clearly I wasn't with those guys. I wasn't part of that alliance. I think had Missy gone, I would have known what was going on. And I think probably Missy is the only one that would have told me, to be honest. Like, I don't know that I know Karishma wouldn't tell me. I mean, Jamal didn't tell me. Yeah, I think Missy is the only one that would have been honest and said, hey, look, yo, Rob and Sandra at the island, you got to go. I got an idol. She might not even have told me she got an idol. I think Missy would have been maybe the only one that would have told me. And that's a maybe. That's not a guarantee. That's a maybe.
Sure.
So, yeah, I'll which kind of sucks, right? Like, because that's information is power, but I just wasn't privy to that level of information. I didn't have the social bonds strong enough formed at that point in time where I was going to get that level of information. And I think a lot of that had to do from a threat standpoint. At that stage in the game, people looking at me looking at Missy. I don't think anybody would have told Missy. I don't think anybody would have told myself. So the two of us are sitting ducks at that point in time.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And we don't want to take up too much of your time. I thank you very much for coming on, but we're going to end these with one crazy question that every Survivor fan, when they watch the show, they think of. So something I have been dying to ask you, when you're like going through the woods or you're on a confessional or like even if you're taking a dump, are you scared about people talking about you and whether or not you're going for an idol or like how scared are you to leave camp with 9 other people so they can just talk behind your back? Like what's going through your head if you have to go to the bathroom?
It becomes a norm, right? The constant state of paranoia, which it starts off in that state, first 4 or 5 days in the game, you're paranoid. You're always paranoid. You're always looking, especially after I got blindsided. You're always looking around, but then it just becomes the norm, right? The norm becomes, all right, if you and I are over here and those two are over there, what are they talking about, right? I could be sitting at the fire at camp by myself, and then Elaine and Lauren are having a conversation in the shelter, and then there's a camera on them, and then the camera pans to me, and then it goes to them, and I'm like, are they talking about me, right? Or is just the cameraman trying to get a shot of me sitting solo by the fire? So you start having these crazy thoughts through your head, and if you run through every scenario that's possible, you drive yourself freaking crazy. So there comes a point in time where if I'm not taking a shit, like I'm just gonna enjoy myself. Like thank the God I'm taking a dump right now because I was constipated, so I was just happy that I was able to do it. Yeah, I mean, you try to find some type of balance in that alone time that you can get where you're by yourself, you're walking. For me, it was like I cried just like thinking about my family, so I would just go out when I needed to cry. I would just go by myself and just try to shake my head and be like, all right, like figure it out, pull it together. Like, yeah, you miss them, you miss your wife, you miss your kid, but you got to get your head back in the game. So there are some times where the alone time was necessary to kind of clear your mind. But yeah, you're in a constant state of freaking paranoia, man. And that's the tough thing about the game is even when you leave the game, you're still thinking about that. You're back at your house and your son and your wife are having a conversation. You're like, what the fuck are they talking about? What are you guys talking about? Right? And it takes some time for that to go away. But I would say I'm pretty good now.
Yeah. So yeah, as he said, we'll wrap up in a few questions, but one more question about season 39. So obviously you were one of the 2 votes for Dean, and then all the other votes went on Tommy. Besides, I believe Elizabeth was the other one who voted for Dean. Did you vote for Dean because you kind of you had him like pinned as a threat from the beginning, and then to see what you thought was going to happen actually happen made you want to give him your vote, or was it something else that you thought he deserved it over Tommy?
That played into it, right? So there's an aspect of that I called attention to this guy playing the game that he was playing and called it that he was going to be sitting where he sat, and nobody listened to me. And sure enough, there he is. He takes up a seat at the spot at the final 3. So there's an aspect of that being like, tip my cap to you, because I called your game to everybody on Lyro, yet you still find a way where you're there and I'm here. So there's an aspect of that where it was like, props, good job to you. And then also for me, when I'm looking at the winner of Survivor, right, I take into account all aspects of the game. It's not just, are you a really strong social player, okay? If you're just going off of social dominance, Tommy won hands down. Like, Tommy over Dean for sure. But I'm taking into consideration all aspects of Survivor, of my experience out there. Camp. Did you do anything around camp? Tommy never did anything at all. He sat and got fed. Like, he would literally sit there and be like, I'm tired. Like, my shoulder hurts. Like, he did nothing. Didn't help with the shelter. Maybe a couple times he helped with the shelter. Dean, more so than Tommy. Not a lot. Still not a lot, but more so than Tommy. Did you win anything? Did you win any challenges, right? Dean peeled off 2 wins at the end when he needed them. Tommy didn't. You can make an argument to say Tommy didn't need to, but at the end of the day, that's not an argument against playing the game, right?
Yep.
Both of them opted to sit out a challenge. Don't have a lot of respect in that. So watching it back, I was really disappointed. And I'm like, damn, like I wouldn't have voted for either of you if I would have known you sat out a challenge, nor would have got my vote. Just off of that sheer fact of knowing that you sat a challenge out like a chump. Like, you go out to Survivor to play. Like, I'm not out there for a vacation. for bacon and freaking pancakes. I'm out there to play the game. Those guys sat a challenge out. Lauren is the only one that I guess I can tip my hats out to because she encouraged other people to sit out for an advantage. But there's so much that goes into my vote, right? Than just who do I like the most? Who am I best friends with the most? And I didn't vote with who I'm friends with. Both of them, I think, are great guys, like outside the game. Like I'd be boys with both of them. But in the game of Survivor, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at all the totality of your entire game. How did you play? Dean played a ridiculous fourth quarter. Like, granted, the pool of people that are left is dwindled down, right? So you're competing against 5 people as opposed to 20 people. But he played a really good, really strong fourth quarter, played the game, right? Did everything, did every aspect of the game, and still had really strong social bonds enough to keep him in the game, right? So if I'm looking at everything, it was very close. I could have voted Tommy. I could have voted Dean, but I just thought the fourth quarter did it for me. And then also calling the shot from the very beginning, from day 10, I was like, all right, yeah, I called it. So I'm going to vote it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and Dean was a great. Yeah. Go ahead, Dylan.
Oh no, you go, Ryan.
No, I was just gonna say, and it's really cool. I mean, I think Dean, you're right, was definitely a threat from the beginning, and people didn't really see it. And Tommy was a great winner as well. I guess transitioning now as we're wrapping up into winners at war with Tommy being the winner of your season. Hypothetically, if this season happened, 1 or 2 from now, and people had gotten to see Tommy's season and Tommy was on the All Winners cast, how do you think Tommy would have fared, possibly?
Tough. Because if you go old school versus new school, right? I think a lot of these old school I think there's going to be a clash with old school gameplay, old school players, and the new school more passive approach where it's like the goal is to be mediocre, like the mediocrist wins the game of Survivor. I think there's going to be a clash there. It's hard to say how Tommy would have done. I think Tommy's would have done the best out of the new school winners.
Okay.
Tommy had a really good social game, and I think Tommy does enough to play down his physicality and his personality, which is impressive that he can do that. So I respected Tommy for that because he's muscular, he's 6'4", but yet you look at him and you're like, you're 5'3", and you're a puppy dog. Like, you're not going to win anything. So it's incredible that he did it. I think Tommy would have done the best of the new school players. I'll put it at that. And again, I'm going to be really curious. It's really curious. I'm really interested to see how this all plays out.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
You got a lot of big characters, big name guys going up against a lot of kind of low key winners where there was controversy of that should this person have won or should this person not have won.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
And then moving to our last question, just to wrap things up, who do you want to win season 40, and who do you think is going to win season 40 if you had to predict?
I'm gonna go with my 3 favorites. Jeremy Collins, always my number one dude. Like, just his game, he won the way he won. Like, I emulate that. I'm like, damn, like I need to be Jeremy. Like, the dude he's amazing. Tyson is probably my top favorite character of all time. Like,
he's awesome.
Yeah,
Tyson is incredible. And then Natalie Anderson, like, she's my underdog, kind of like, all right, like she played a really, really strong game in Blood versus Water, and I'm rooting for her. I'm definitely pulling for her. So those 3 are going to be my favorites going into the game, and who I think is going to win. Kind of toyed back and forth with this. I'm going to throw out Nick Wilson.
Okay, interesting.
I think he's one of the people I think could win also.
I'm gonna say Nick. I'm gonna
think,
say the new school is gonna win the old school. I'm gonna say the big dogs are gonna just dog eat dog, and they're gonna decimate each other. And I think Nick just kind of skirts by.
Interesting. All right.
Wins. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on again and taking your time to talk to us.
Absolutely. Thanks, fellas. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right. Hey, you guys have a good night.
You
too.
Yeah.